Okay, let's begin. Hello, everyone. My name is Elmer. I'm the co-founder of Surety, together with Valerie, who is not here today. So, thank you so much for joining us in this webinar on Hot Flashes to Harmony, thriving through the emotional aspect of menopause, where we'll be exploring the emotional challenges that affect menopausal women and how these affect actually our loved ones. So today we have joining us Sapna Mathews, who is a senior counselor at EMCC. So Sapna believes that all of us, at some time or other, will hit bumps in the road. When we hit big bumps, we may need a safe, caring space to be listened to be deeply understood. So this is where Sapna believes that counseling can play a big part. So EMCC, on the other hand, seeks to help individuals and families manage relational challenges, build emotional resilience, and maintain psychological health and wellness through counseling and mediation services, as well as training and educational programs. So with that, I would like to then also introduce Shruti. So what we do. So as many of you might know, Shruti is actually a one-stop platform for all things midlife and menopause in Singapore. And we have been organizing events like these on a wide variety of topics that are relevant to midlife women, from menopause care, mental wellness, all the way to confidence. So really a wide variety of topics just catered for midlife women to understand more about this midlife experience that they're going through. And we understand that this transitional period can be challenging for a lot of women. So with that, I would like to hand the time over to Sapna. Sapna, please.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm so glad you're all here this evening. I'm going to just spend a bit of time to try to get my slides on. Sharing. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So, welcome to this evening's talk, Hot Flashes to Harmony. My own journey has been really interesting. So I was among the lucky few. I would say the lucky few who had no issues with menstrual cycles or periods. It was always on the dot. By the clock, never had an issue with too many cramps, and being through horrible pain or anything. So I kind of prided myself in being one of those few who could handle this part of a woman's biology and the struggles that happen with it. But what happened in the last couple of years? So I won't divulge my age, but what happened in the last couple of years was I found myself getting even more irritable with, seemingly very little things. And I remember mood swings happening, getting angry with family members, colleagues, and never once did it cross my mind that this could have anything to do with hormones. I just thought that, I was going through, angry, a period where I'm very angry or having mood swings. But things got pretty bad when things at home started getting more heated up. And I have a family member who struggles with mental health. So there was a part of me as a counselor wondering, is this some late onset mental health issue that's coming up? I better get it checked. And I remember going to see a psychiatrist. And I told her all my symptoms. I told her that this happens typically twice in a month, where I seem to lose all shackles, and I tend to get angry, irritated. My sleep goes for a toss, etc. And I expected her to prescribe some antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. But interestingly, she asked me things about my cycles, my menstrual cycles. And I was like, why is she even asking me that? I mean, that's not what I'm here for. And she's not a gynecologist, she's a psychiatrist. So why is she asking me all this? And that's when, for the first time in my life, I actually heard of perimenopause. So perimenopause is not menopause, but it can be even 10 years, 10 to 12 years before actual menopause starts. What happens is the hormones start going up and down, which causes mood swings, which cause menopause like symptoms, but way earlier. And yes, it was, I was in my 40s and I was like, I'm nowhere near menopause. So it can't be menopause. It can't be hormonal issues. But it was this psychiatrist that opened this whole topic of perimenopause. And ever since then, I've been trying to find out more. So today's talk is a lot about my own journey, finding out information, and also with my background as a counselor on how I would deal with it and how I would get my clients or talk to my clients on how to deal with it. So today's talk, this is what we are going to go through. We are going to go through the life stages in a woman's life. We're going to talk about transition points and why they are important. We're going to talk about hormones, some good hormones. I mean, all hormones are good, they all play a purpose. But what happens when some of these hormonal levels start to change? Lastly, we'll talk about the power of acceptance because we are in a society where we are constantly asked to continue to look youthful, young, beautiful, fight aging, stay young and pretty as long as you can. But there is a certain power that acceptance of this life stage brings. And I want to share about that and about embracing and empowering this transition. So yeah, let's start with the life stages in a woman's life. So I'm guessing most of the audience today are women, and most of the audience today are somewhere in one of these life stages. Probably not in the first two, but definitely in the others. But let me just go through these life stages very quickly. And while I'm doing this, I just want you to go back to each of these life stages in your life and have a flashback or a memory flashback of what it was like for you. So, childhood, typically 0 to 12 years of age, the key focus is about growth, it's about learning socialization, the basic rules of friendship. How do you get to be part of a group? How do you play, etc.? And physical changes are mostly growth. Early puberty may come in the last 1-2 years in a woman's life. I mean, in the 0 to 12 years of age. The psychological changes are you're developing self-esteem, you're developing identity. The places where challenges you meet are your family environment, your school, your friendships. Next, we have adolescence. 13 to 19, I remember this age as completely confusing, but at the same time, full of confidence, raring to go into the world and, see what's there in it for me. 13 to 19 years, you're forming your identity, who you are, what are your likes, what are your dislikes, what are your values, what are you passionate about. Your emotional development happens. In terms of physical changes, that's where puberty sets in, your body image starts forming. Menstruation starts. There's increased emotional sensitivity to friendships, to breakups. Your hormones are, trying to find that balance. It peaks, it goes down, etc. Peer influence is a big thing at this age. And the challenges are, how do you navigate friendships? How do you navigate romantic relationships? You're just learning about the world and the people in the world. So it's a confusing time, but at the same time, a time where your life is like filled with possibilities. Then we talk about early adulthood. So typically a woman would go through that from the ages of 20 to 35. Education is a big focus. Career is a big focus. Relationship is a big focus. Fertility kind of peaks. So this is the best childbearing age, right? Menstrual cycles get more regulated. Your identity is developed. You start building independence. You're moving out of being under, your parents' umbrella into your own home, your own family, your own husband, kids, etc. And the challenging or the challenges that come during this time is, how do I find a partner? How do I start a family? How do I establish a career? What's my place in this world? How am I going to fit in, right? So that's early adulthood. Midlife is typically 36 to 50 years. I mean, these are broad brackets. So this is where perimenopause kind of hits. Your fertility kind of starts declining. Focuses are still career, it's still family, it's still personal goals. You start reflecting on your achievements, you're balancing your roles, juggling work, you're juggling family. Finding that balance is a huge challenge in this age group. And this is also the time when you find yourself sandwiched between your children who need you and your parents who are growing old and need you as well. So that's one of the challenges. And then 45 to 55 is typically where you hit menopause. Your self-care, your identity shifts, end of your menstrual cycles, hormonal changes, emotional transitions. And typically what also happens with this is your children kind of grow up and leave the nest. So there's that vacuum that forms, the whole center of your existence, perhaps were children. And they are now leading independent life. So there's that part of your life that goes into a vacuum. You and your husband, if you're married, that is, are probably at the peak of your careers. You have reached almost the top of your careers, right? And retirement is looming on the horizon. So there's that part. The thing that you've spent a lot of your adult life working towards, your career, your purpose, suddenly seems to be coming to an end as well. And then menopause hits. So it's a lot of things that happen at the same time. And it can be very scary. So I just want to bring in that point. Going down briefly to the other two. So there's late adulthood, which is 55 to 70 years. That's retirement, health, relationships are the focus. There's slower metabolism. Your body is slowly starting to, not be at its peak. But there's an increased self-acceptance and there's reflective thinking. Has my life mattered? Have I done something worth it, with the years that I've been on this planet? You start enjoying community more. Friendships that have lasted over many decades become so valuable. And it's a slowing down of life, if you may say so. And then lastly, the elderly years, which is 70 plus, healthcare, legacy, meaning, there's limited mobility, finding purpose, coping with loss. This is where, you start seeing family members or friends leaving you one by one, especially the closer ones. Spirituality becomes a big thing. So all the women out there, you're on this journey somewhere, and I want you to give yourself a clap for the stages you have already crossed, because none of them were easy and you have reached this point. So it's worth mentioning that your body has gone through a lot of changes already. Your mind has gone through a lot of growth and changes already, and that's worth validating and giving yourself a good tap on the back. So one of the questions I had was, why is it called perimenopause and why not premenopause, right? It makes more sense if it's pre-menopause and premenopause. But apparently is a Greek word which means around or near. And it's like you're getting there, but you're not really there. So that's why it's called perimenopause refers to the years before menopause, when women experience irregular periods, hormonal shifts, and early symptoms like hot flashes, mood swings, and sleep disturbances. This phase can last 4 to 10 years and ends 12 months after the last period, which is the official menopause. Premenopause, on the other hand, is the entire reproductive phase before menopause begins, from puberty all the way to perimenopause. This term is not commonly used because it lacks the specificity to describe the unique transitional nature of perimenopause. So if anyone out there like me who is wondering why is it called perimenopause and not premenopause, here's your answer. Yeah. let's go. There's so many jokes about women and menstrual cycles and PMS, and I said, why not? Well, let's also have some fun about ourselves. So this one of my colleagues found this joke for me and I really liked it. Menopause is like Mother Nature's way of telling you you've been through a lot and here's the grand finale. Yeah. Okay. So coming to my next point, which is transition points. Now, as a counselor for many years, I have found that most people hit a crisis point when they are at a transition. What I mean by transition is, like, for example, you are single and now you're going to get married. So that's a transition. You're a married couple and you just had your first child. That's a transition. You've been married many years, you're going into separation or divorce. That's a transition. And people always struggle, whether it's even children going from primary to secondary school or from secondary to uni or NS or whatever. It's a transition point where your familiar world is going to suddenly shift to something that you're not prepared for. And transition points are always difficult. Most of my counseling cases, the presenting issue will have something to do with a transition point. And in terms of perimenopause and menopause, transition points are not always linear or experienced by every woman at the same age or in the same order. However, recognizing these moments can help women prepare, cope, and thrive through life's inevitable changes. So, usually we say perimenopause can start around 40 and can go up to menopause, which is around 55. It's a transitioning from fertility to menopause. So you can have a lot of physical symptoms. So hot flushes, weight changes, sleep disturbances. I typically feel that women who are going through this, our faces get a bit more chubbier and we get that muffin top on our tummy area, like, perpetually pregnant kind of weight gain around there. Also, emotional changes, mood changes. You can swing from very happy to, crying buckets. And there's this joke that my husband and I we laugh about, that he knows my cycles better than I do because he knows he needs to be ready for those fireworks that happen, every that time of the month. So even though we say women are going through it, actually the people around us are experiencing the same amount of stress and strain, but in a different way as well. Yeah. And of course, the changes that happen with our external worlds, like empty nest, career path changes, etc. So these are all transition points, and we need to be very, very aware when we are going through a transition point, knowing that it's not going to be easy and to prepare ourselves for it. Yes, I think the hormones always get a bad rap, but let me share a bit about what I learned about hormones during all this. So I spoke once to a gynecologist who said that her youngest menopausal client was actually a lady in her 30s. Not in her 40s or 50s, but in her 30s. So there's no linear graph, you can never say that it'll only hit at this age. So it can be at any time. Now, the symptoms listed here are just a small percentage of the actual symptoms. So, the obvious ones, hot flushes, which is basically your body seems so hot and you just want to get in, under a cold shower as fast as possible. You wake up in the night sweating, even though the AC is on, the fan is running, but still you're just sweating. Mood changes, irritability, anxiety, sleep disturbances. You either sleep a lot or you sleep very less. Changes in libido for some, vaginal dryness, itchy eyes, lack of focus, fatigue, migraines. Small things can set you off, like eggs on the egg tray in the fridge, if someone put it the other way instead of turned up, could send you into an anger zone. Yeah, and what my psychiatrist also said, that this is one of the top reasons for misdiagnosis. So women who go with a lot of these symptoms, like I'm feeling very anxious, my mind is in a fog, I feel very low, I have no energy to do things, with those symptoms, if you're not careful, they get diagnosed as depression or anxiety, and medication like, Prozac or other medication are given. So there's a lot of misdiagnosis. Memory losses have been diagnosed as dementia in the past, even though it was related to hormone fluctuation. So it is so important to recognize the symptoms, and the symptoms can be very different for very different people. So reading up, becoming aware becomes all the more crucial. Yeah, but I'm going to share a bit about the main hormones. At least the hormones you should have, you should know that these are the key ones. So, first of all, estrogen. Estrogen actually remains high all through perimenopause, but it can also cause weight gain, especially around the abdomen and hips, breast tenderness, bloating, water retention, mood instability. So, estrogen is known for this. Progesterone, on the other hand, decreases, and this causes an increase in anxiety, in mood swings, in irritability, and depression. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and we all know is so pivotal in how we regulate. So, if cortisol is very high, we are going to be very dysregulated, right? So, isn't it so obvious that it'll cause an increase in anxiety symptoms? It'll cause mood swings. Thyroid hormones also fluctuate during this period, which leads to fatigue, weight gain, or mood changes. So these are things that are kind of beyond our control and on a biological side of things. So there is hormone replacement therapy. There are I know some women, some of my friends who are on estrogen tablets to help with that. And estrogen is such a key hormone. Our eyesight, our hearing, all these have a link to estrogen levels. So you can imagine the far-reaching consequences on our body if suddenly estrogen were to increase or decrease, or any of these other hormones. Yeah. Okay, so as a counselor, I also want to bring up how this can affect our loved ones, menopause or perimenopause. So we are going through, women would be going through a lot, but the people in our circle would be experiencing it as well. So, for example, partner or spouse, there's a decrease in libido, so the intimacy can take a hit. Mood swings, irritability, or emotional sensitivity can lead to misunderstandings. Imagine living with a partner who can get angry at the drop of a hat. It's like you're perpetually walking around eggshells, and that can be very stressful for people. Fatigue or night sweats can affect sleep patterns, leading to stress. So partners, spouses especially, do get affected when the woman in their life is going through this life stage. Children, so teens may feel confused or hurt by emotional volatility in their mother. My mom is one moment so loving, hugging me, and the next moment she's screaming her head off at some silly thing I did that would confuse a child or a teenager. Because in Singapore and in a lot of countries, women are having children later. So they may still have young children while they're going through menopause or perimenopause. So young children may not understand, why is my mom always tired? Why can't she come for my, activities? Or can't understand why mom is always sad and crying. And children are very sensitive to mood shifts in parents, right? So it can affect them. Friends can get affected because there's social withdrawal. You're tired, you have no mood to go out and party, you're anxious about a lot of things. There are changes in priorities or interests. So friends may feel like, hey, well, what's happening with her? Why isn't she like she used to be before? So they may also need some amount of understanding. They may need to understand, and also women need to understand what may be going through them as well. Work relationships. So colleagues may misinterpret irritability or mood changes as intentional behavior. Relationships with colleagues may shift, resulting in isolation. So it kind of starts affecting, all the people around you. And this is something just to be aware of, just to create awareness. Okay, time for another joke. Um, What's the difference between a pit bull and a woman in menopause? Let's take apparently. Okay. Okay, so coming to the next part. So questions I'll be taking at the end of the presentation. So um, hold on with the questions. I'm sure you have questions. I want to share the story of Anna. I've changed her name. She's one of my clients. She went from a lively, caring mother, colleague, friend, wife to a very, very depressed uh, person within a span of a few months. No one could really understand this big shift in her. There was no evident life change. Like, usually you associate depression or depressive symptoms with something that has happened, like you lose a loved one or you lose a job that you liked a lot or something, but there was nothing in Anna's life that showed that event had happened. And yet she was depressed. She couldn't get out of the bed in the mornings. Her children would come and talk to her, and it was almost like the light switch inside of her was just turned off. She found no joy in things that gave her pleasure. She used to do art. She found colors or paint or drawing or painting not fun anymore. So she had actually just suddenly gone into a space which was very dark, which was very gloomy, and she started having severe suicidal ideation. Um, she felt it would be better to end it all. There was nothing to look forward to. Her husband couldn't really understand why the sudden shift had happened. Many people thought, oh, maybe, there was an affair that broke up that nobody knew about, but no one could really understand what she was going through. And she's one of my clients, but she told me her doctor was able to pick it up and kind of brought it up as it's not just depression, it could be hormone related, and actually put her on some medication, not antidepressant medication, but actually on hormone related medication. And that brought a huge shift. So initially, she told me she was very resistant because she was nowhere close to the menopausal age. So she couldn't believe it could be hormones. And she couldn't believe that hormones could have this extreme effect on a person who's normally very, chill, very calm, very collected. So Anna's story actually told me that for some it can be really severe. It can cause mood swings that are, tip you over into suicidal kind of ideation or attempts. So always look out for signs like that. And counseling is the best bet to go because whether it's counseling or any professional help, they'll be able to guide you through it. So I just wanted to put that story out there to say how it can get. So her husband and her are actually having couple therapy at EMCC. We are using the Gottman couple therapy method to help them, on an emotional level, how they can support each other through this. Her doctor is helping her with medication, etc. So just to know that there are severe cases of this as well, with all the jokes on one side, it can be quite difficult for a lot of women and their families. I want to come to the this part about acceptance. So what is acceptance? Acceptance means fully acknowledging the reality of a situation, emotion or condition, whether it's positive or negative, without trying to fight it, avoid it or change it immediately. It does not mean resignation or passivity, but rather it reflects an active choice to meet life as it is and move forward from a place of clarity and calm. And I just want to bring about why acceptance is so crucial. Now, bad things happen to all of us, right? I don't think there's anyone in this room that can say nothing bad has ever happened to me. I've had a very smooth life. Everything has been great. I mean, life is like that. It's known to throw curveballs at you. It is known to kind of make you go through very difficult challenges. But there is a power in acceptance that resisting it may not have. And I'm trying to bring this from an angle of perimenopause and menopause. Our culture, our social media, and all promotes a lot of youthfulness and anti-aging. Like every cream, you have anti-aging written on it. Almost every cream, healthy lifestyle. All that is good, but at the same time, fighting a change can cause more struggles, emotional struggles for the mind and the body. But when there's acceptance, it reduces suffering by allowing emotions to flow naturally instead of suppressing them. It helps in managing anxiety, anger, or sadness. So, accepting this life stage, it builds resilience and fosters self compassion. It promotes healthier relationships by reducing conflict and expectations. It encourages empathy and understanding towards others' flaws. It decreases stress levels, which can reduce physical symptoms like hypertension, chronic pain. Acceptance is linked to improved outcomes in managing illness. Now, this can be about any illness. Accepting it and working towards making it manageable or making it better is the way to go. Helps release perfectionism and self-criticism. Acceptance of failures and flaws creates space for learning and personal development. Acknowledging difficult experiences is a step forward towards healing. Acceptance allows space for grief and emotional processing. Now, why did I bring this up? Because I feel acceptance is a very powerful state in counseling in a client's life. And I want to encourage you to know that this stage is going to happen. If you are a woman and you have lived a certain number of years, this is an inevitable stage. So instead of fighting it, why don't we just embrace it and make it the best one yet to be? Like the best is yet to be, and work towards that. And how do we do this? So here's a quote I really like. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms. Yeah. So how do you embrace it? Number one is educate and make yourself aware. Learn about what hormonal changes can cause, their impact. Learn how to balance them out. Knowledge reduces fear and uncertainty, helping you make informed decisions, right? So educate yourself, learn. There's so many videos on the web. There's so much of narratives, the personal stories, etc., of people there. Find out as much as you can. Talk to other women. Talk to people who have gone through this stage before. So, empower yourself with education and awareness. This is the other part that I want to just bring up. Many of you may have heard of this before, but I just want to bring this up. When emotions are like a roller coaster and you wonder, how am I supposed to control it? Actually, there are some very simple steps. So I want to introduce this concept called window of tolerance. Now, what window of tolerance means is when people are within their window of tolerance, they are in a psychological space that allows them to perform daily activities without their emotions and thoughts overwhelming or interfering with their function. So if you look at the middle bracket, right, the middle space, that's when you're in your window of tolerance. You're relaxed, you're in control, you're in balance, you're in a calm state. But say something were to happen that made your mood go hyper aroused. So that's the top layer. So hyper aroused is when you're in your fight or flight response. I'm sure you've heard of this term. So basically, you are in a angry or a hyper aroused state where you're attacking or confronting. You become angry, you become irritable, you want to hurt someone, verbally. You want to engage in blaming or shaming. You have difficulty trusting people. You feel like running away or hiding, quitting, being in denial, self sabotaging oneself. So these are all hyper aroused or fight or flight states. Hypo arouse is, on the other hand, you are giving in, you're surrendering or becoming compliant. You feel empty or numb, like you're shutting down. You experience detachment. And this is also a very difficult place to be because there's no motivation, there's no energy, there's no, your mind is in a freeze kind of state where nothing is clear, nothing is sure. So, counseling can help you if you are stuck in either hyperarousal or in hypoarousal. Counselors, whether at EMCC or any counseling agency, can help you find your window of tolerance so that there are less volatile shifts in emotions, either up or down. Yeah. Um, Okay, I also want to introduce this bit called the happy hormones. This is probably also hormones names that you have definitely heard about. Dopamine. Dopamine enables motivation, learning, and pleasure. It gives you the determination to accomplish your goals, desires, and needs. Oxytocin. It gives you a feeling of trust. It motivates you to build intimate relationships and to sustain them. It's also called the cuddle hormone or the love hormone. Serotonin rewards you with a good feeling when you feel significant or important. It is the pleasure you get when you experience social power, loyalty, or status. Endorphin. Endorphin releases a brief euphoria that masks physical pain. It is a response to pain and stress which helps elevate anxiety and depression. Any kind of physical distress can trigger endorphins. So you should know these hormones and what they do. And here's a little bit more about these hormones. So on the top row are what happens if these hormones decrease. I mean, if there's a lowering of these hormones in your body. So, for example, if you look at dopamine, if dopamine goes low, you will feel like procrastinating more. You will have lower self esteem, lack of motivation, low energy. All those things listed there is when these hormones get lowered. Oxytocin, when it goes down, you feel lonely, you feel stressed, you disconnect from relationships. Serotonin goes less, you again have low self esteem, you become overly sensitive, you have panic attacks, mood swings, etc. Endorphins, when they go down, you have anxiety, depression, mood swings, aches and pains, insomnia, impulsive behavior. Now, how do you increase these good hormones, right? Because cortisol, all those hormones we talked about earlier, needs something to fight back with. And the way to fight those hormonal shifts is through releasing more good hormones. And there's a very natural way you can do it. So, for example, dopamine, you can actually increase it by exercising regularly, creating something like music or writing or art. By meditating, you can increase it. Oxytocin you can increase by physical touch. So when you play with your pet or you play with a little child, it can actually release oxytocin in your body. Listening to music, cold showers, meditation again, all these can increase oxytocin. Serotonin can be increased again by exercise. So exercise is like a sure shot method. Sunlight, uh, massages can. Endorphins by laughter or crying, creating again music, dark chocolate. Okay, eating dark chocolate, that's my favorite. So that's a great way to get endorphins released. Again, exercising. So, in the beginning of the talk today, I talked about meeting the psychiatrist and wondering if I was going mental or, I was going berserk. And when she told me it was maybe just hormones, and I was going through perimenopause, I asked her, what should I do? Is there medication I need to take? She said nothing. Just she just gave me two very simple ones. Now, this is what my doctor told me. I'm not saying this is like across the board, everyone. It'll work for everyone. But she said, just do simple things. Walk every day and have vitamin B, B6, B12. And I've been doing that and I've actually felt way better. There are days I slack, but just going for a walk increases all these four happy hormones that you saw. Exercise hits every single bracket, every single one of them. So these are very natural ways that you can actually increase these. Yeah. So, yeah, embracing and empowering the transition. We many times we think of menopause as an end of something beautiful. It could actually be the start of something beautiful. It could be a time of letting go and rebuilding. It can be a time to rebuild your lifestyle for the next chapter that you're going into. It could be a time of reflecting on your personal experiences, resolving perhaps past emotional wounds, because menopause also has a tendency to bring out past trauma, losses, griefs, broken relationships, things that you haven't, how do I say, things that perhaps you haven't found closure with, things that are still there, stuck in the back of your mind somewhere that you haven't fully resolved. It can come up during this time. Past trauma can get triggered and it can come up. So it is a time to relook at some of these emotional wounds that you patched up in the past, but it's still there and it's still hurting. And focusing on self acceptance and self healing. This is a great, great time. Redefining beauty and strength. This is a good time to shift the focus from ideals that society places on us of youth to something more internal, something more core, inner strength, wisdom, experience. So menopause does not have to be an end. It can actually be a new beginning. Yeah. So how counseling can help? We can help with coping strategies. We can cope with couple work. So if the family is going through something difficult, counseling or counselors can help you work through some of those issues. It can teach you how to get back into your window of tolerance. It could help you work through some of your past trauma that you have been, putting at the back burner for many years now. You can actually bring it up and talk about it, and professional help can help you, move through those unresolved traumas in your life. So yes, so these are the things we talked about today. We talked about life stages in a woman's life. We talked about transition points. We talked about hormones, a lot of hormonal names of hormones. We talked about power of acceptance, embracing and empowering the transition. So, my favorite quote about this is, instead of waiting passively for this life stage to unfold, why not embrace the journey and take action to make it the best one yet? Yeah. And at EMCC, okay, this is a quote that I really liked, so I just put it in here. At EMCC, actually, we want to offer to all the people in here today one complimentary session. So free of cost, you just need to scan this QR code. One free session to anyone who wants to just come in, have a chat with one of our counselors. In the referral form, you can just choose talks conducted by EMCC, and you can just write surety menopause talk. Yeah. So I'll leave the screen on for now. This is a good time to ask your questions, so you can put them on in the chat. I'll
Yep.
be happy to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you, Sapna,
Thank you.
for the very insightful sharing. So, yep. So, like what Sapna mentioned, there is actually a counseling trial session free of charge that EMCC is offering. So, do take note of the QR code, and I'll be showing it as well later. So, let me just quickly share just some things before we go into the Q&A session. So, as I think most of you might know, the Menopause Festival is currently on sale, and we have had overwhelming reception. Tickets are still on sale though, we do still have a couple of slots left before they're all fully taken up. So if you would like to join us, do feel free to search up the event on Google, or otherwise scan the QR code. And if you want a preferential rate, do reach out to any either me or anyone in basically the chat, that we can facilitate your participation as well. So, and with that, I think before we close out the session, we would have a Q&A, but just a recap on the counseling trial. That's the QR code on the right, and the feedback session for today on the left, as well as to learn more about Shirley's offerings, including the Menopause Festival, etc. You can scan the middle code to join us in our WhatsApp group and our other communities. Yeah, so moving on to the Q&A session, do feel free to put your questions in the chat so that Sapna can answer them as well. So maybe just to kick off the Q&A session, I think a lot of the women that Shirley has engaged do suffer from quite a fair bit of psychological symptoms, ranging from anxiety, depression, and mood swings, etc. Do you have any quick coping strategies, or sort of like stuff that they can do on a very at home, or maybe if it's very very sudden, something they can do outside very quickly to maybe alleviate some of the symptoms?
Yeah. So if you remember the picture that I shared about the window of tolerance, so if you find yourself above the window of tolerance, that means in a fight flight mode, anything that can calm down can increase the energy. So it can be something as simple as deep breathing. I typically like doing it's called the 5-finger breathing. So what you do is, when you're going up the finger, you breathe in, and when you're going down the finger, you breathe out. That's something you can do anywhere, whether you're on a bus or at work or something. So you breathe in, breathe out. In, breathe out. So you do that at least for a minute or two to kind of calm down the hyper aroused state, and you will go back into your window of tolerance. On the other hand, if you find yourself more on the depressed or the hypo aroused state, which is below the window of tolerance, anything that brings movement. So it could be just standing up and stretching, or just putting on some walking shoes and going for a quick walk around your block. Any of those things can actually get the body pumping and move you out of that freeze mode back into your window of tolerance. Different strategies work for different people, so you really need to find your tools. You need to find what works for you. So some people find music great to either calm them down or to energize them. Some people like social connections, like just picking up your phone and calling a friend and talking to them can bring them back into their window of tolerance in no time. So you really need to find what works for you, and that finding is so crucial, and it can make a lot of difference in the emotional states. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think definitely. I think a lot of women that we've engaged with has also feedback that they do get a lot of these symptoms in the middle of the day when they're at work as well. Like sometimes, just in the midday at 1 p.m. after lunch, they get a very, very bad brain fog, for instance, or they get some form of anxiety or panic attacks. I think that is has been some of the feedback that some of the women that we have talked to have been complaining about. And I think Yasmin has a question on have you had any clients come in with issues at work and how do they essentially cope with it, or how would you recommend that they cope?
Yeah, so in terms of emotional coping, there are a lot of strategies out there. So, like I mentioned, breathing. Sometimes you have to, um, okay, I use this analogy. You can't learn swimming when you're drowning. You need to learn swimming beforehand. So, a lot of those emotional strategies need to be learned before you hit the rough patch. So at work, what I find typically useful is when your mind is going blank and you can't follow through, say in a meeting, just get up and say, I'm going to grab a drink, go grab a glass of water, or take a breather, open up a window so that some fresh air can come in. These sound very simple, but those few moments where your brain can, kind of recalibrate. One of my favorites is I have this game on my phone which needs a bit of cognition. It's a game that you have to put the same color liquid in different bottles, something that needs a bit of cognition, and that kind of clears my brain fog sometimes. So you need to find what works for you. Simple things, they don't have to be expensive or elaborate, but simple things that you can do without much things in your with you, you can just do quickly. What else works? Trying out anything exercise. If walking and running is not your thing, maybe table tennis, or maybe playing cards with family members, something that engages your mind and engages connectivity. Hot flashes, unfortunately, it's a very physical thing. There's not much you can do. But if it happens at work, again, there has to be understanding in the workplace. People are more kind, to pregnant women or breastfeeding mothers, but not many become aware of menopause and the hot flushes or other things that accompany. So, as organizations also need to become more aware of this state and what women go through. Yeah, taking a cold shower is a bet, but at work it may not be possible. So it may just be dousing some cold water on your face or your hands to kind of bring down the temperature a little bit. Drinking cold water or something that's cooling. Yeah, simple things like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think for this session you focus a lot on hormones, and I think definitely the hormonal changes is one of the biggest factors in the various menopause symptoms such as hot flashes. So I think Winnie has a question. So maybe from your perspective as a counselor and from your knowledge of hormones, how would you recommend that someone can reduce these instances of these hot flashes?
Okay, so this is more a biological thing. What I've been told is having vitamins that are related to them. I know we are in the menopause festival, and we are going to get general practitioners and psychiatrists and all in our talk. So they'll be better able to assist you if there is medication out there that can bring down hot flashes or any kind of the vitamin B, the B complex, I know is very effective in bringing down a lot of these symptoms. There are also natural remedies like herbal teas that have been worked, for some women in bringing some of these symptoms down. Yeah, but I'm guessing someone who's in that area, maybe in terms of physical symptoms and medication, we probably I may not have the right answers or the best answers.
Yeah, so I think maybe just echoing Sapna, definitely consult your family medicine doctor or your trusted doctor for any medical advice. But at least from the perspective of where Shirley stands, I think there is quite a fair bit of treatment options out there for essentially menopause symptoms as well. So some of the more popular ones that I can share are things like your estrogen mimicking compounds, like your phytoestrogen, which are plant-based estrogens that you can try. So a lot of these other treatment options tend to vary in terms of results. Some women find that it works, some women don't. So it's really about customizing and personalizing and trying out the different treatment options out there to find something that really works for you. For example, I've had women come to me saying that, oh, black cohosh and John's wort really, really works for them. While I had women saying that, well, it's complete, it really completely doesn't work, right? So really, I think definitely if you want a more trusted advice, right, and consult a doctor, definitely find a doctor that really understands women health in particular as well. So I think, for example, we have Dr. June on the panel for Menopause Festival. She's part of Osler Health, and they do have quite a suite of doctors that are very, very well equipped to handle women's health issues as well. Yeah. So I think moving on to the probably another question that I would have is that I think mental health is quite an important thing, like you said, in the workplaces. But I think particularly for menopause, there really isn't much support, right, in a workplace. So I guess like what are your thoughts on essentially like perhaps mental wellness in the corporate sphere? That's number one, and probably how companies could do more to support women in the workplaces for their basically midlife symptoms or perhaps their mental health symptoms.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And at EMCC, we have also been thinking how can we support, companies and help them support their employees better, because mental health is a huge, huge thing. I think people are becoming more and more aware of, how badly it can turn, how it can spiral downwards. So there are different things companies can do. Number one is creating a work-life balance. That is making sure that overtime and things like hard, working more extra time is not something that is necessary or mandated. Making sure that life happens outside the office. Actually, the real life that we live is in our homes or in our families or in our communities that we indulge in. So employees should have enough time to engage in that. I know of companies who have a mental health day where they have a retreat where they spend time and money to allow the employees have a relaxed atmosphere. There are also companies that do employment assistance programs, EAPs, which is basically either they pay partly for the counseling sessions that the employees can go to, or they even fund, like, say, 5 sessions or 10 sessions over 24 months, where the employees, whenever they are going through a rough patch, can go see a counselor, talk to them, or see a professional and talk to them about their mental health issues. So there are a lot of ways that companies can actually support employees with their mental health. Menopause and related issues may still be not so much in the in the limelight right now, but Shruti is doing a great job in bringing it into the limelight. And as we are an aging workforce, right, in Singapore, more and more people will start talking about it and experiencing it. And we have so many women in our workforce in Singapore, around the world, actually. So this is a topic that's very relevant and should be brought up and discussed, even within companies. And these conversations need to start happening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sapna, for your validation as well. I think Zizi shared in the chat something quite common also. You actually, for your hot flashes, etc., you can actually get a cooling spray. You can find these in supermarkets, convenience stores, pretty much even in pharmacies as well sometimes. So these essential oils have helped women, I think, through their various symptoms as well. So do give it a try if you haven't tried it before. Yeah. So I think perhaps just before we end off the session, just one final question. So perhaps like for the women suffering very severe or really having these mental health symptoms affect their quality of life quite a fair bit. I think, of course, I think going to EMCC is for counseling is an option, a great option as well. But perhaps what are some of the treatment options or sort of like treatment plans that they can sort of like look up or approach when they are facing this type of symptoms?
So for any severe symptoms, whether it is biological, it's or emotional, it is always important to find the right professional help rather than to self-diagnose or to look up the internet. I mean, internet, yes, it gives us a lot of answers, but it may also not be the right answers that we need at that point. So whether it is talking to your gynecologist, whether it's talking to your psychiatrist, talking to a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist. At least, I mean, what's the harm? I always say if you had a cholesterol issue or a blood pressure issue, you would definitely go speak to your doctor about it, right? But why do people hesitate when it comes to things that affect the brain or our mind? Why is there so much of stigma and reluctance to go talk it out with a professional? So that part needs to come down. That stigmatization of seeing a doctor should for mental health issues, or even just you're going through a rough patch, you're going through a bump, and you don't know how to get yourself out of it. Talking to a professional should be a very natural thing to do. And professionals are trained, they have spent years studying this, and are best equipped to help you. So that one thing that you do for yourself may actually save you a lot of trouble down the road, for yourself and for your loved ones. So I would say find the professional help near you, qualified professional help, and seek it out, whether it is for biological symptoms or emotional symptoms.
Right. Thank you so much. I think just to close off the session, a quick summary of today's session. I think definitely hormones is a great indicator and a great driving factor for what midlife women experience in terms of their symptoms. I think for women in their midlife, generally, I think we do have women who experience little to no symptoms, to women who have hot flushes and experience night sweats till they have insomnia, right, and also have the various psychological symptoms from anxiety to mood swings, etc. And thus it's actually very important for you to seek professional help, especially from a medical professional, should you feel that these symptoms are affecting your quality of life quite a fair bit. And also in terms of psychological symptoms, there are actually quite a fair bit of different things that you can do, especially if it goes above the tolerance level, like what Sapna mentioned, in terms of simple things like deep breathing exercises, right, that you can do at home or anywhere, should you feel that these psychological symptoms are affecting you as well. Right, so I think we also shared a little bit about what you can do as well when you for the symptoms in terms of alternative or complementary treatments. I think Sana mentioned vitamins and supplements, particularly like for example B12 and B2. We also have women who take supplements in the form of plant-based estrogens, or your simple like multivitamins seem to also help a lot of the women in our community as well. Yep. So I think as we close off the session, thank you so much, Sapna, for sharing your insights and experience, basically um, managing women's health symptoms as well as women mental health symptoms, and also I think to EMCC for also facilitating the session, and of course to everyone for joining us today in this session. And we wish you excellent and happy week ahead. Yep, it's a nice Tuesday evening already. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.